I'm going to let you do the intro because I do not remember the intro.
Christy, I don't remember how we used to introduce this
I
show.
wondered if you would also not remember the intro.
I was like, what did we say? I'm Phil. Wait, Phil. I'm Phil, and what did we say? Like, how does this even begin?
I don't. We didn't. We always
We
kind
have
of got around to it. I know that.
we have theme music, right?
We do have theme music. You usually edit in. I maybe guffaw at something.
That's right. That's right. I make you laugh, and then I put the theme music over it.
Which you're so good at.
Hey, Christy, something funny. Hey, Christy,
No,
wry observation.
Nailed it. Oh, I saw a headline this morning that said the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes didn't need that Snow voiceover, or the President Snow voiceover, and I thought to myself, well, yeah, it didn't need it, because I don't remember it happening.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that it ends. I forgot
I saw that movie. I had seen that movie 2 days ago.
It was that moment where I was like, do you think we didn't... Was there anyone in the audience who was like, oh, that's Snow. Oh, that President Snow. Oh, this is a Hunger Games movie? Oh, because then they show like the logo for the first time.
Yeah, they do, which they hadn't done to that fight. My name is Christy.
And my name is Phil.
And this is a podcast called Pizza Toast, where we talk about YA and middle grade novels and the movie and TV adaptations thereof. And
very good. Wow, you pulled that out of your pocket.
Don't know how. I'm most nervous about not cursing. I've gotten very used to cursing all of the time.
Right, because you joined that cursing group.
Yeah, that's where we've been, where I've been specifically. You've been busy with other things, but I've mostly been swearing.
Swearing up a storm, just standing on the street corner in your Elmo costume, just yelling at children.
The worst thing is sometimes I walk to the Target by Times Square, and I will just see the fake, like the bad mascot costumes, and the people are not wearing the hats. Or the face coverings, and that's really bad every time. I don't like to see that. Sometimes they're like half off so they can get some air, so you just see part of a human face. It's bad.
I have a friend who does mascottery at various events, and she's a freelance. She has a job, but she also does freelance mascot work.
That's actually like a good paid gig. That's not like the Times Square people.
No. But she brought to one of my performances because it came in the mail, and she wanted to like check it out in the lobby, I guess. A full body costume of the Anna Kendrick character from Trolls 3. But it was like a third tier costume, so the head was really small and it looked like a Times Square costume. It was pretty upsetting.
Was Trolls World Tour playing in the same theater where you saw the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes?
Well, wasn't World Tour the second one? Isn't it a
Maybe
new one?
Maybe this is whichever one is out now. Is it? Yeah, I don't know what they're called.
I have a 12-year-old now. I don't need to know about trolls.
The trolls are none of my business, and I will not engage with the trolls. So we're talking about the Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a book that we read a little while ago, and had a lot of thoughts on.
Oh, yeah. It was a shockingly grim, shockingly dark book. Yeah.
Would you call this movie appropriately grim and dark? Because I think I would.
It's appropriately grim and dark. It does have that weird, like, this is PG-13, so even though someone's getting an entire trident thrown in their back or whatnot, you're not going to see blood. You see blood maybe twice in this movie, and the rest of the time it's like, this person got completely eviscerated and they are bone dry.
It's because they don't have to show blood when they show a boy, basically a man, like a 17-year-old boy, dying of rabies on the spot.
No, but it is weird, though, when he falls 30 feet, cracks his head on a rock, and he's laying there dying, but there's just no blood coming out. It's just
that's a little strange.
It must have been internal injuries.
Just watching something where a lot of blood came out of someone's mouth, but I feel like it wasn't the Hunger
It
Games.
wasn't the Hunger Games. No. The only time you really see blood is when it comes out of people's hands. Like, even What's-Her-Face gets her fingers slammed in a door at one point, and I was like, oh, but it didn't,
Oh,
like, it wasn't like, What's-Her-Face, the hat from
Rose the
Doctor
Hat.
Sleep. It wasn't Rose the Hat.
Doctor Sleep. It has what that is one of the most is one of the movie moments I think about the most that I wish I did not.
Genuinely upsetting degloving scene from Doctor Sleep, a movie that, in my opinion, doesn't get the love it deserves.
No, great movie. Mike Flanagan never misses. We love it.
Nope.
We love him. Highly recommend Follow the House of Usher. If you love silly things and things that go nuts on the gore, as opposed to this movie, which does not. Even when the only time I would say it is truly gory is when the girl gets her throat slit by a tribute. Yep.
Right,
that's a good moment that they carried straight over from the book. The stuff they carried over from the book is very loyal, and they were also, like, incisive with this movie. They were like, we're taking this part out, we're taking this part out, and we're gonna make it better.
But also really good at being like, we don't need to spend 50 pages setting up this. We'll just show one shot of this and you'll get the idea. So before I even saw it, I said to you, there better be a scene where, like, little kid Snow sees someone butcher a human body in the middle of the street for food. The movie literally begins with the butchering of a human body witnessed by two small children.
Oh, Phil, I was so happy for you. I saw that. Like,
I almost was stood up and applauded.
This opens, they run onto the street, and I thought, oh, they're about to see somebody eat a man. Like, this is how this movie is going to blow the doors open and be like, this isn't your mother's Hunger Games.
Now, it's all discretion shots. So we see, like, the person raise the cleaver, bring it down, and you know that, like, the editor was like, one frame before it made contact with the wrist, you're gonna cut away, so that the MPAA is like, fine, it's PG-13.
And it makes use of the PG-13. Like, it does its darndest to push the bounds of that, I would say. Well, remaining relatively bloodless. We do get to get very close to a keen visual of a man eating a man.
We do. Now, Christy, my first big question for you, because I always like to start off with a big question.
Yeah, you do.
Is, did you know, Christy, that everyone hungers for something? Did you know that everyone hungers for something?
That is not that's not a real tag. I mean, I know it's a real tagline, but it's not a real tagline. Also, the colors in the posters are so saturated that,
yes.
Okay, so in this poster that we're looking at, one that says everyone hungers for something, we have Gold Choreo standing back to back with Lucy Gray, and Lucy Gray's skirt is like the most vibrant thing I've ever seen. Whereas in the movie, it's a tattered, like, old thing that she wears, and the costuming in this movie is so good. Trish Somerville is back from the Hunger Games movies, and she doesn't really get that much to do as far as Wild Capital stuff, but she makes those tributes look dead on.
Well, I wanted to say, before we get too into the plot and the characters, that the gang is all back. Frankie Larry, Francis Lawrence, the director.
Frankie Larry.
We love Frankie Larry. We love Michael Arndt, who wrote the last couple of the games. Michael Leslie, who you probably know as the playwright who adapted Swimming with Sharks to the stage.
That's exactly what I know him as.
Is on board. So written by Michael Leslie, Michael Arndt. We have Joe Willems back for cinematography. We have James Newton Howard back doing the music. A great score.
Oh, this score.
Yeah. So the gang is pretty much all here from the previous films, and I would say that I believe Francis Lawrence has upped his directing game quite a bit.
This is I mean, we'll get there eventually. I don't think this is as good of a movie as some of the other ones, but I think that the direction is very tight and very he knows really good. This is a very good looking movie. This is a very well edited movie.
Yeah.
And you, after you saw it, said 2.5 hours fly by. And I was like, there's no way they can. Like, and I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who gladly saw Oppenheimer in the theater twice. So it's not like seeing a long movie in the theater bothers me, but you can feel the length of something like that. You don't here. There's
Yeah.
no fat to cut here. It's crazy how tight this movie is.
But it also doesn't feel like, to me, I mean, sometimes it does, but in a couple of the Hunger Games movies, it felt like they were just desperately trying to hit plot points just to get them out of the way. Like, we got to hit this, we got to hit this. Mm-hmm. This one at times felt like that, but I also felt like he was able to weave it into the body of the story. Because this is like, I forgot that Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, it's like 3 separate books. We've got, in the movie, it's actually just like, book 1, The Mentor. Like, it just sets you up. Like, here's how, this is the 3 distinct chapters, and I forgot that each section in the book could be its own standalone, at least 2-hour episode of a TV series.
People love to do that as soon as a movie is as long as this, because it happens in Oppenheimer, and it happened in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, and we simply must divide this.
Dr. Sleep, hey, bring it back to Rose the Hat.
Oh my goodness.
Rose the Hat would have done pretty well in the Capitol, by the way.
Rose the Hat is named Rose the Hat, and that's really all you need to know. I mean, she's a vampire who leads a gang of people who steal the energy of Jacob Tremblay. That's mostly
but Stephen King vampires. So they only drain. They like to mostly drain people with psychic powers, who are also recruited by the vampires to go to Midworld, where they can be recruited to be breakers to destroy the beams of the Dark Tower. There's a lot of mythology in Stephen King.
A Stephen King vampire, because you know what vampires need more of? Lore.
You know what vampires need more of? Dimension hopping and big flashy automobiles, because they always drive around in the gaudiest automobiles. We just got through reading the Stephen King and Richard Chismer Gwendy series, Gwendy's Button Box. And you don't know until the 3rd book that it's just like, no, this is secretly a Dark Tower book series. Like, it's all of a sudden you're like, and here come the low men in yellow coats, everyone.
So you still have the poster up, and I want you to leave the poster up.
Oh no, I've got more images for you.
I can't. The way this guy who plays Tom Blythe is his name.
Tom Blythe.
Like, I don't want to give this man short shrift, because he is good. His face is the sharpest face I've ever seen. Like, he is all angles. Yes, look at that. Look at that man.
He is a pretty boy.
He's so pretty,
but he doesn't just. He's better than a pretty. Like, I was worried when I first you sent me, or someone, I think it was you, sent me like the first released image from the movie was him and Rachel Ziegler like lounging on a picnic lunch, and you said something like, I didn't know they cast a twink as
that was definitely me.
Yeah,
he's pretty twinky in the first half of this movie, and then they give him the military cut, and he becomes pretty Eminem, and I wasn't mad. I'm not mad about it.
He is a peanut M&M.
He is captivating to look at, and not in an I'm so attracted to this man way, so much as he commands like your eye. Like, there are a lot of very well manicured teens in the Capitol. Like, everyone in his class is perfection, like face tuned to perfection, and then he is there, and he is still standing out, even with his shabby shirt with buttons made of tesserae.
But they also, you see him shirtless a few times, and he is also built like someone who has starved a lot. He is, to the degree that I was like, did they CG down his frame? Because he's skinny at times.
Honestly, I really hope so, because he's skeletal in the first bit, and then when they're very intentional about it, because then they show him after he's been in the military for a bit, after he's bulked up.
That's true.
He looks a lot more healthy at that point.
I was gonna say beefy, but sure.
No, when he does some not quite skinny dipping with his best gal.
Now I don't know if you noticed in the poster I put up. It's a shot of Tom Blythe as Corey. As they managed to call him Choreo in the movie and not sound weird. They just call him Choreo.
Cute. I liked what they did.
I don't know if you've noticed this in this poster though. He is surrounded by snakes, leading one to believe that he might be a little bit of a snake.
Wait a minute. He also looks like a Malfoy. The color of his hair, like the kind of putting on airs at all times until he meets Lucy Gray and falls for her instantly. Falls for her like kind of upside down teardrop shaped face and her big eyes and her she does the Appalachian accent.
She does a pretty good job at but before we get to her, are you familiar with Tom Blythe? Like, did you know him from anything?
I've never seen this man in my life.
Okay, you weren't a regular viewer of the Epics series Billy the Kid, of which he's the
knowing
lead?
that he was on that did really get me, like in a tee hee hee why would this happen way. I had also never seen Rachel Zegler in anything.
Oh, you never watched that musical movie she was in?
I've not seen West Side Story. No, I've seen the other West Side Story. I've not seen that one.
That really surprises me. I would think that you'd be one of you're one of them musical people. You like New York City.
Some people say that, and it's true. And
I try
to wiggle out of it, but yeah, that's true. It's been like on the list for a very long time, but what you need to understand is that I'm very lazy about seeing things I didn't see in the theater.
Oh, yeah. Can I be fundamentally honest with you?
Yeah.
I know that I can be honest with you. This is a safe space.
Yes.
Not crazy about Spielberg's West Side Story.
I have not heard of anybody being crazy about it. I have heard that she is good.
Oh, everyone's good in it.
Okay.
It just you don't need to rewrite it that much, my boy. It's pretty solid story already. You don't necessarily need to. Never mind. This isn't a West Side Story cast. I just have a lot of issues with the rewrites. But no, Ziegler's good. You know, she's strong. In fact, speaking of the devil, and she shall appear. The Ziegs wearing her costume that mysteriously doesn't get very dirty throughout the course of this. I will say I had a problem with this movie in the same way I had a problem with the other Hunger Games, which is, I'm going to assume it's a producer thing. They refuse to let Ziegler look too dirty. Like she should
look dirtier. She actually looks more unkempt as soon as they get to District 12, and she should look like that the entire time, if not worse. Probably worse.
Because one of my favorite scenes from the book, one of the moments from the book that really just like unnerved me and really struck me was the scene where they are all unloaded from the cattle cars after the tributes have been sent. The tributes are sent to the Capitol. I mean, it's deliberately Holocaust imagery. They're packed into cattle cars with no food or water or anything. And you know that it's a long way because they have to cross the entire continental United States in a train. But she steps on, and when they step off the train, they are wrecks. Like they are, like even Lucy Gray is she's barely holding herself together. Rachel Ziegler steps off the train looking great. Like it looks like they've been standing in the train for maybe an hour and a half, and everyone else is just whining because she's so like confident and sure of herself. But I think it has to be that just Hollywood thing where it's like, we can't make our leads look too unattractive for too long, everyone.
This is true. A lot of the other tributes look pretty hard scrabble, though.
Right, but we don't know who those people are, and they're like a bunch of... they're people I do not recognize.
No, I learned 2 of their character names during the movie. I learned Jessup's because we hang out with him a lot. He is... Ziegler's, I guess 3. He's Lucy Gray's co-tribute. And then I learned Coral's name because Coral is an incredible hunter who I'm terrified of.
Yes.
Like, her scariness is outmatched only by Viola Davis's
we'll get to Viola Davis. I wanted to say Coral, I agree with you about Coral. This, like, absolutely terrifying tribute. And I felt like I actually got to know these tributes a little bit better than I did in other movies, probably because they're just confined to one space the whole time. Like, you can't really run away from each other in the arena because it's all in one blasted out spot.
Right. And then we also have, we have the cute little, I remember all their names. This is weird. The cute little girl named Covey, who you don't want to die, but she sure does, and it sure is a bummer.
It sure is a bummer.
Played by, I believe, the one that Sejanus wanted to be friends with so badly. Oh, Sejanus, my sweet baby boy, Sejanus. We'll get there.
We'll get to Sejanus because I wanted to mention that Covey, is she the one whose actress? I believe she has
Down syndrome. Yeah.
I couldn't think of what it was called. She has Down syndrome, which I don't believe is the case in the book.
It's not.
I think in the book she's just small. In this, they cast an actress with Down syndrome. She's great, and it's just like the filmmakers being like, "You didn't want this little kid to die, did you? Now you really don't want this little kid to die, and you certainly don't want her to die in a tidal wave of snakes."
Yeah, we've got a lot of knife twisting here because the one very young girl who falls prey to the poison that was intended for the cruel tributes is a person of color, and she's frail, and Jason Schwartzman refers to as walking tuberculosis. And again, you feel awful watching it. I love how short the games are in this, especially in contrast with the other ones. And it makes sense because it is only a third of the book. So checks out that it's not that much in the movie. But they're so brutal. They pack a lot in that short amount of time.
A reminder to our listeners, if you haven't seen it, and haven't gone back and listened to our episode on the book, why have you not done that? It's been months. This is about the 10th annual Hunger Games. Hunger Games are still in a single stadium and are intended to be a competition that lasts an hour. Like, you just tune in to watch a bunch of starving children kill each other, and then it's done. And the premise is that the ratings are no one in the Capitol is watching the Hunger Games anymore because it's over too soon. And it's how Coriolanus Snow becomes history's greatest reality TV show producer, essentially. Like, what if we institute betting? What if they're able to buy their tributes snacks? What if we can do this, that, and the other thing? And how he inadvertently builds the Hunger Games.
Yeah, it's cool to watch his morality crumble. And it's interesting. It makes it more interesting to visually see a boy be like, hey, I'm getting positive reinforcement for being evil. What if I could use this to my advantage in my currently disadvantaged position?
And it's interesting. I did think that because we're not in Snow's head as much, a few of the moments, the character moments, which were played beautifully, seem like a little bit of a jump for him because you don't get to see the gradual slide into amorality. It sort of happens in these like leaps because we don't get to spend 6 hours in the like training program, which the book, like you learn about his like classmates, his like when he becomes a peacekeeper, you learn about like the other guys, the other recruits, their like daily hangout time. You spend a few chapters catching jabberjays. It's they really just zip through that in the movie. Not to its detriment.
The jabberjay stuff is really to their credit. Like, they knock out the meaning of that in 2 scenes.
Yep. But not in a way that seems rushed. Like, it works. If I hadn't read the book, I wouldn't know I was missing something.
Yeah. This is the way I felt about a lot of things. I was sitting next to 2 very chatty teenage girls, which was not the ideal viewing experience, but one had read the book and one hadn't. And helpfully, the one who had read the book was filling in a lot of the exposition for her friend. And that helped me enjoy the movie more because it didn't. I was pretty annoyed, and I am not but I was the oldest person in my theater, and I was not going to be the one person in their late 30s yelling at the teens for having a nice time.
I'm trying to watch this movie that was made specifically for you.
This children's movie will be disrupted by you, and I will not have it.
See, I was not the oldest person because I went to an 18 and over showing at AMC at 9:45 p.m. where if you want to get in, you have to be either 18 or accompanied by an adult. So there were teenagers in there, but they had their parents with them. So it was a pretty well-behaved crowd.
Yeah, this was the thing where I usually pay like $1 or $2 extra, or like end up buying food at one of the like bougie, we have a very strict no talking policy theaters. And going to Williamsburg Cinema, the stalwart, like, decades old theater in my neighborhood that has the old, like, roller coaster graphic at the beginning telling you to turn off your pages and cell phones, ended up being a mistake. Like, I should have just gone all in and gone to an expensive theater, but at the end of the day, like, I still got plenty out of my Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes experience.
But
Weird
did you get
crowd.
Did you get to see the trailer, though, for the Mark Wahlberg movie where he meets a dog?
I didn't.
Oh my God. You didn't get to see the trailer for Arthur the King? The true story about a guy who goes on a race through the jungle and a dog he met before the race goes 1,200 miles to find him, and then the dog gets sick and he has to help the dog. Arthur the King. He names it Arthur the King because it's the king of the race. He says in the trailer, I'm going to call you Arthur the King because you're the king of this race, dog.
I didn't see this, but I did see the long trailer for Wonka, which prompted me to send a text to Scott that said, the long trailer is somehow even worse than the teaser.
Oh, you didn't appreciate the extended gag that wasn't funny after the trailer ends, where it's like Wonka and the Oompa Loompa, like, annoying each other for, like, 30 seconds of just silence, and the audience just stares at the screen like,
I didn't like
are
that.
we expected to enjoy this happen? Like, why is this even made? That I need to. He's gonna open the chocolate factory at the end and be a sociopath. Like, that's how is this his Coriolanus Snow moment? Are we gonna see Wonka and be like, I actually needed to know this? He and his sister or his cousin witnessed a man eat another human being, and that inspired this. Speaking of which, cat-faced Meowmers herself.
Oh my goodness. Not in this movie very much at all. Oh.
Tigress
gets maybe like
a few scenes.
Long scenes. Like, I don't know if I needed any more of her, so it's fine. You didn't get a lot of context for the fact that she is Tigress beyond him calling her by her name.
But again, that's that thing that the book does too, where it's like, I don't know why this was important. I don't know why it was important in the book for her to be Tigress. Like,
it wasn't. I still don't know why it was important.
She's clearly not the same actress as in the movie who played Tigress. I don't.
I'm okay with. I think
they could have just. It would have been weird if they'd cast that actress in this role. She would have been considerably older than Hunter Schafer. Hunter Schafer, who does a great job.
She's good. She's really good. She does a lot with a little. She does exactly what she does in the book, which is to say, she makes choreo clothing and she reports back to him about how terrible things are at home.
We don't get they cut the whole thing about her, like, engaging in sex work.
Yes.
For
which I think
money.
Is okay.
I think it's fine. It is, like, one of the reasons, though, the characters in the book, so you can just sort of see, like, what they resort to survive. Like, he finds out that she's been doing this behind his back, and he's like, oh my God, Tigress, like, she really does care about this family or something.
Yeah. They're miserable, but you don't know the extent. So
right. They should have had her sell her hair and teeth.
Yeah.
Then we would have known. But I liked their mentally not all their grandmother.
I was a big fan.
Yeah.
I like that one of his first lines is telling his grandmother she's singing a little sharp.
Yeah, that's in the book. They did it. That was
Yeah.
I will say that almost
They
all
really
the dialogue.
swinging with this boy.
Yeah, almost all the dialogue in this movie is from the book, except for Jason Schwartzman, who gets to build his own little character. I guess like they were just like, I guess go for it. Like we're gonna give you.
Every time he spoke, it was another just little bit of magic for me. Every time,
Literally,
it was like,
literally
I can't believe
magic.
he's here. I can't believe he's doing so much. And I loved like he's an amateur magician, and he says that more than once. They're like he does a dumb little trick and calls himself an amateur magician. They didn't need to do that, but it's so good that they did.
I can just see Schwartzman being like, can we add, like, can I just say that? Can we just do this? And then being like, yeah, great, sure. This character is kind of nothing. So he's like a bargain. In the book, he's just kind of like a bargain basement. What's his face from the other movies?
Yeah. This is because he's playing Lucretius Lucky Flickerman, who is the grandfather or great-grandfather, I think. Grandfather sounds right, of Stanley Tucci's character in the originals.
And he's the Capitol's weatherman, and you actually see him doing the weather at one point. And he's an amateur musician. And I love that they established this as like, yeah, the Hunger Games aren't his job. He's just asked to do this because he's the local TV personality. It's like getting your local weatherman to do the dog show. And
the weatherman bit really got, like, that really killed for me. Like, my theater, weird crowd laughed at things that weren't funny every once in a while, I think out of discomfort. At a couple of the times people that's the Jason Schwartzman character poster. He has a deck of cards and he's doing a dumb little trick. Oh, that's very good. Laughed a couple times when Lucy Gray sang a song, which is weird.
My audience reacted strangely to some of the songs, I think because they're so well done. Like it comes across as like, wow, what am I watching now? I will say that the songs in this sound a lot more like Appalachian songs than the songs from the previous movies, which sounded like kind of poppy, a little too like produced, like not produced, but a little too, the melodies in the original movies sounded like the person writing them didn't quite grasp the Appalachian concept, and they sounded more like new country.
Yeah. I like the music in this. I particularly like the songs that Lucy Gray sings when they are partying in District 12. I think they're really good. We also have, like, obviously the great moment where she makes eye contact for choreo for the first time. Oh, their chemistry is really, like, very strong. Also, like, it always feels like she's a couple steps ahead of him, which I'm a big fan of.
And seeing it in real life, as opposed to just reading about it, really drives home in parts the this isn't a healthy pairing. Like,
oh no,
she is
bad idea.
She is his slave, and he is her, like, given her as a gift to like win a game, and so their romance is icky, like because there's this huge power imbalance. To the degree where I still felt like he could have not shown up in District 12, and she may have wondered about him every once in a while, but she probably would have been fine without.
She would have been fine.
Seeing him again. It's
a very, I mean, she has a lot of quiet power in her performance, in part because she's very small. Like a thing that they emphasize a lot in the books with Katniss is how much littler she is than a lot of the other people in the competition. It's why she can climb trees so well. Lucy Gray is diminutive. Like, she's a lot smaller than him, which kind of drives home the point that there's a huge divide between the two of them. And it works very well for her, generally. And I think she carries herself with this air of, like, I mean, I also think in this, it is much clearer that they are Romani. Like, I think in the book, they get, they're kind of dancing around that in the book, but here it feels like a clearer analog. Yeah, it's really interesting. She's very cool, by the way. I think Lucy Gray is cool.
Yeah, and I think that's sold very well in the sense that the districts and the capital, Pan Am, doesn't have cool. Like, that doesn't exist. And so when she shows up, people are like, there is something wild about this. And I think you nailed it. She's cool. And no one's cool in this world.
No. I mean, they have to wear skirts at the academy and pants.
We get man skirts in this movie. Just there's your man skirts. Not since the original Star Trek pilot or whatever.
It's fine. There's a yeah. Oh, like it feels weird to like lay out the basic structure of this because we have talked about it at length. But yeah, this is a 3-act story technically.
Deliberately.
Yes.
Like, no, it's not even technically. It's a 3-act story.
It says it's a 3-act story, but there's multiple acts within it. It's one of those things. It feels closer to 5, but I'll allow it. I'll allow it. Francis Lawrence and Michael Arndt. So we have like the first act, which is getting ready for the games. Then we have the games. Then we have military service, and eventually Coriolanus going insane and then going back to the capital.
He does go insane. How
psyched were you during that scene? I was like bouncing up and down. I was so worried that he wasn't going to sell it after everything I had seen of him. Not because I think he's a weak performer, but he did really well with quiet rage the whole movie, like really restrained himself. And then he goes nuts, and I was so happy.
Yeah, not since like the Katniss freakouts in like the original films where like she's poisoned. It's kind of the same thing. He gets bit by a snake, doesn't know if it's a poisonous. He gets bit by the snake and he screams like, "Is this poisonous?" Like, and it's like, ugh. And then he starts flipping out. He thinks he shoots Rachel Ziegler, but just like in the book, you're not sure. You see someone, they scream and fall, but then he runs over to where he shot them and there's nobody there. Creepy scene. Yeah.
Very
done
scary.
Really well. Again, I think the book had it easier just because it was able to sort of show you the gradual building of his paranoia throughout the entire book. Mm-hmm. Whereas they had to sort of shorthand it a lot in the movie. So it could have been a little more disorienting, but he sells it so well. What you mentioned, though, going back to the first act, Peter Dinklage. We haven't discussed the Dink.
We gotta do that. I think it's important, like, not important, but like, I was contrasting this with his appearance in a movie that is not quite a prequel, but is in its own way, X-Men: Days of Future Past.
I thought you were gonna say Living in Oblivion.
The station agent.
Station Agent may be as much of a prequel to this as X-Men Days of Future Past.
So there's something about, okay, have you seen Game of Thrones?
I've seen the first season season and a half, I think.
So, like, I mean, it's a show that becomes absolutely just like a pile of garbage by the end, but Dinklage never lets up and never throws in the towel on his performance, and I think he's given very little to do here. I think his character in the book appears more often, but it is as underwritten, and I don't think they did anything to add more dimension to this part. That being said, like, every second he was on screen, I was mesmerized because he's a wonderful actor, and I think he does a good job with very, very little material to work on.
And that brings up a point that I was trying to figure out how to make, which is compared to the original trilogy of films, or I guess quadrilogy, with the casting in this movie, if you look at the original film, you have Kristen. No, you have Stewart. What's her name? J-Law? Jennifer Lawrence? I couldn't think of her name. I was going to call her Kristen Stewart. I couldn't think of her name.
I thought you were going to call Elizabeth Banks Kristen Chenoweth, and I was like, yeah, that's fair. We talked about that a lot.
No, I was gonna call. Okay, so we have J-Law, we have Hutch, we have Five Nights at Freddy's Hutch.
Yeah.
We have Chris Hemsworth's brother.
Leo.
We have a bunch of pretty people who look like movie stars. This movie, you have faces. From Rachel Ziegler's like enormous eyes and eyebrows to Tom Blythe's like pouty lips but like strikingly chiseled features. You have Peter Dinklage's like amazing face acting, like even when he's not saying anything. You have Jason Schwartzman, just like this, like sort of like Muppet face. We're gonna get to Viola.
Like one of my weirdest looking celebrity crushes. Like, let's call a spade here. That guy's a little weird. Like, there's something off about him, but he's so right whenever he is cast. Like, he's never been bad in anything I've seen him in.
Yeah, I know that when you watched Rushmore, you were like, why isn't this kid more popular?
Rushmore was my favorite movie when I was 14. It's still top 10. Like, I absolutely adore him in that, and he remains as good as ever in a Wes Anderson project. So
well, and he's like Dinklage because he's never not giving it his all.
Yeah,
like, he is never, even though like his star rose to a point and then kind of like leveled off and then kind of dipped. You put him in a character role, and Schwartzman's like, great. I'll just tear it up. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you everything. And this whole movie is faces as opposed to Hollywood faces. Like, they're just, everyone's a character. This could be like the Saturday morning TV version. Like, even like all the tributes. Like, I remember what they all look like because they're all like, their silhouettes are so just
they're very distinct. The kid who plays Sejanus is very adorable, but he is also not like, he looks... I feel like I don't know what else he's in, if anything. He has he looks so much prettier in that.
Do you mean Josh Andres Rivera, who acted opposite Rachel Ziegler in West Side Story?
Oh.
He plays Chino in West Side Story.
Okay.
Basically the same role, to sort of put upon guy.
He is like, he's not... He also has a face. Like, he is making the same hangdog face for most of the movie. And it fits. It works. And you get very, like... It is the same level of friendship, and that's, like, enormous air quotes around it, as he has with Corio in the book. Like, where he thinks that they are best friends. But there are points at which he realizes that they are not nearly as close as he thought. When they reunite, he is obviously more excited to see Coriolanus than the other way around. And his face falls a lot. He's very good at that.
Yeah, it especially falls about 3 feet in those last
scenes.
Oh
my God. Okay, so... Of course I knew that people were going to get hanged in this movie. Of course, this is a big moment, two different moments.
There's a whole song about it.
And still when it happens, I just like the loudest, most theatrical gasp about it.
Well, and they pull off the Jabberjays really well.
Oh my goodness.
Or the Mockingjays. I think it's Mockingjays at that point.
I felt like they showed a little restraint there too, because in the book he's calling for his mom.
He does in the movie.
Yeah, but it is more, like, to me it is more anguished and less, I don't know.
Or maybe it's the first, I think maybe they have the first guy who gets hung scream for his mom.
He does.
That's what it was. They changed it to him. Because I was like, ooh. Yeah, I think it would have been a bit much for Sejanus. I think we all just would have, like, left the theater. I think we
also because we don't know how much he loves his mommy in this. He never talks about her.
That's right. We lose a lot of his relationship with his parents.
Which I was okay with, because it feels very gross that Corio then integrates himself like with the family, becomes their surrogate son.
But see, that's one of my problems is when you lose little things like that, it detracts, in my opinion, from that, like, oh, he is a gross guy.
Yeah.
Like, he is Donald Sutherland's bloody-mouthed president at the end. I don't know if you knew this. Same Coriolanus Snow.
I loved when he poisoned at the end. And I was like, because that's like his signature move.
This is how I learned what poison is.
Classic that guy. We haven't... I keep thinking in these character posters that we're going to happen upon the one that you most wanted to talk about, and yet.
I'm going to surprise you. I was going to surprise you because originally I was going to save Josh Andres Rivera's poster for last. Mm-hmm. I even have it labeled on my OBS as "and the rest" because he's like the one actor whose name I'm like, I don't remember this guy's name, even though he's great and I love him and he has the sweetest face. And I think he's my favorite part of West Side Story because Chino in the play is a nothing role. He just sort of stands there, and they actually beefed him up a bit in the movie, and he's great in it. He's such a sweetheart. But I think what you're referring to is the final poster I have here. Let's just bring this one up. There she is.
Yeah. So
there she is.
I was really skeptical of Viola Davis in this role. And I had no, like, in retrospect, I had no reason to be because she's an incredible actor. But I have only ever seen her play. Okay, like, I think for me, the quintessential Viola Davis performance is Widows, a movie where she is exacting, she is intimidating, and she is glamorous. And she is powerful in every scene. Your eye is drawn to her, even though, like, Elizabeth Debicki is in that movie. Like, they're playing against each other in this really powerful, incredible way. She is scary in such a different way in this movie. In a way that, like, the book is almost feels like a cartoon character. This woman who's, like, always playing with bunnies and snakes and all kinds of tomfoolery. This woman would kill you where you stand. Like,
she shows up on screen, and before she says anything, she's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
And she still looks like a cartoon character. She looks like a He-Man villain. But it works because it's Viola Davis, who's an amazing actor. And it's just like, no, I'm not going to just ham it up. I mean, she does ham it up. She does. But she's like,
She's not... She's not, like... She's not reciting couplets. She's not doing, like... she's not, like, answer me these riddles 3. She's just saying... Like, she says weird, esoteric things. And then, like, basically throws a girl into a tank of snakes. Like, she... And without ceremony. A lot of this. Also, immediately sees what she is going to, like... She doesn't have a kinship with Snow, with young Snow. No. She wants to. She wants him to be under her tutelage. And you can tell he's scared of her, which is... I mean, like, it's like both of them are doing a great job of her being like this very intimidating figure who is still trying to draw him in, and him just being scared for his life whenever he's in the same room as her.
And I'm going to give all credit to Viola Davis for this, but she and Tom Blythe are in scenes together. They're both holding their own. Because he's playing sort of a clueless kid. She's playing a Godzilla villain. And she is such a giving actor that he has so much to work with. And I never feel like she's upstaging him.
No.
She's and the direction too, and the cinematography does a great job at like making sure the focus is on him. But she's just really good. And I remember you being like, Viola Davis, that hack.
Yeah, I called her a hack. That's what I said. No, it's just because, I think it's because the part is written, or like in the book, the character is written in a way that you almost want to like point and laugh at her when she first is introduced because she's so outlandish. But she was able to make outlandish into a very scary, very sinister thing. And I like... the performances have nothing in common except for how arresting they are. For me, she's the Philip Seymour Hoffman here, where every time she was on screen, I got so excited. Because it meant I got to watch a master class in whatever it was that they were doing.
Whatever it is you're doing.
Like, what she's doing is wild, and I respect it so much. And, I mean, one of the like best economy of storytelling things we have here is how quickly they run through the Jabberjay plot, like him, like Snow, throwing Sejanus under the bus, and like us understanding what he's doing, but them handling that so quickly, and then he gets he gets back to the capital eventually, and she's like, hey. Good job being terrible. I'm very happy that you are now terrible too. It's so good. It's such a good payoff for the thing that you see him do that you really don't... I was going to say you don't want him to do, but you know who he is. You always know he's going to be a bad guy. Which is a fun thing about this movie because you're never rooting for him.
Right. You're rooting for Rachel Ziegler, who, again... disappears, and she takes a horse and cart out of this movie. Like, she's just bye, and you don't ever hear about her again. Just like in the book, they're like, and we do lose. They mention it. We lose a lot of stuff with the theater troupe, which upsets me because I wanted to get to know those characters really well, like we do in the book.
Yeah.
And because of that, we lose a lot of the Lucy Gray story. Like they mention her name and the song about her, but if you're not paying attention, it's going to go right past you.
Mm-hmm.
And so the book really sets up that she's named after this famous poem about Lucy Gray by, I can't remember who wrote it. Like, I can't remember. It's a famous poem. And in the end, the character Lucy Gray disappears into the snow, and you don't really know what happens to her. She's a mystery. Her whole story is a mystery. And of course, at the end of the book, that happens to this Lucy Gray. She just disappears, and we'll never know what happens to her. Because I lost that, like, because that part was so rushed, I lost that tie-in at the end, and I really wanted that sort of satisfying, like, and just like that, whew, she was gone. Like, goodbye, Lucy Gray.
I mean, like, I think I'm being slightly more effusive than I thought I was going to be, just because whenever I talk about a movie that I saw and I'm like, it was pretty good. If I go on a podcast and talk about it, I'm like, it was actually the best movie I've ever seen, and let me outline why. I do have, like, my hang-ups with this, but it is mostly because of what it's being adapted from. Because I think the book is such an unruly, sprawling narrative.
Yeah.
That couldn't, like, it doesn't feel like at any point Suzanne Collins was even really trying to keep it hinged in any way. Like, she's just all over the place with it. And this movie, like, so much credit to the adaptation here. Like, the screenwriters for taking what is an enormous, like, honestly, like, a, like, pretty, unruly is the word I keep coming back to.
Yeah,
like,
sprawling and unruly.
Making it, like, concise and able, like, you are able to follow this if you haven't read the book, you're able to follow it. I've read enough reviews now that say it's good, that make me think they did a good job with that. It's still gonna be this story at the end of the day, so I'm still not like, I'm not gonna love it the way I love, I mean, like, I just have so much affection for particularly, like, the second and third Hunger Games movies now,
right,
that it's very odd to contrast it with those. So I don't think it's the best. But I do think
it really is its own animal, though. It really is its own thing.
This is never going to be like those. It never feels tonally that much. Like, there's something about Francis Lawrence directing it that ties it back to that world. But the games are shot so differently because they're not this big production, and, like, the tension between the characters, like, in their relationships, are so different, because it's not like, okay, so, like, Peeta and Katniss are allies, so their relationship is obviously going to play differently from, hey, what's up? I am the person who owns you right now.
Right.
Like, it's all just so different, and I do like I generally like it. There are things I love about it. I love Viola Davis. I love the music. I think the score blended with the folk songs is so good and so powerful. It's just, there is a lot less going on, and that is both to its credit and to its detriment, because it's still this story.
If I miss anything, like, fundamentally that made me, when I think back on the movie, made me go, ugh, it's that a lot, even though we get called out, they call out a few of the themes, I feel like Suzanne Collins' overall reason for writing the novel gets a little lost in the story. Like, the whole concept of her whole thing with veneer theory, where, like, if you strip away all of everything that makes civilization, do we revert to being animals? Like, that was her whole thing. Like, and I feel like the movie, even though Viola Davis brings it up, even then I feel like a little bit of the thematic, like, punch of the book was lost, because they had to tell a story, which is their job, to tell a compelling story. But I really felt like, I didn't feel despair like I did at the end of the book. I didn't feel like, we are all doomed. I just felt like that darn snow, if only.
The book is like a 1984 style gut punch, where it's
like,
I mean, spoilers for 1984. He loved Big Brother is like one of my the basic one of my favorite
Yeah.
lines in any book because it's just so like it's just a declaration of hopelessness and there's no way around it. There's no other way it could have ended. This doesn't have that same level of despair. Like it doesn't.
Right.
It and the voiceover actually didn't bother me as much as it apparently bothered enough like people to write clickbait articles about it. But like,
I have not read those
It
articles.
does kind of put a neat bow on it, where it's like, and wait till you go back and rewatch the Hunger Games and see what this guy became.
Donald Sutherland.
Donald
Wait till they
Sutherland.
get
I
a
was
load of
thinking
me.
about his death in those movies and how good it is.
It is good. What was I just hearing? I was just listening to something or watching something where someone talked about being sat next to Donald Sutherland on a plane. And they were like, holy crap, it's Donald. What was it? They were like, holy crap, it's Donald Sutherland. And he just started talking to them about how much he hated filming the Hunger Games. Like he was a stranger to them, but he's like, I'm 80 years old and they expect me to stand there and tied to a pole for hours all day. I'm an old man. I can barely walk. And he had like oxygen and
Incredible.
And they were like, and I'm just like, I want to hear Donald Sutherland complain about the Hunger Games for an hour. But Chrissy, did you know that everyone hungers for something?
What I was gonna make a joke about what I hunger for, and I've got nothing.
The hunger for these Hunger Games movies. Maybe we'll finally get our PETA backstory. Maybe we'll finally find out how they became bakers.
I would love to know more about Hutch and his family.
I'll tell you right now that he and his little sister almost got killed by a bunch of animatronic animals at a abandoned pizza place.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
The Five Nights at Freddy's has like the craziest backstory of anything that doesn't need a backstory. And I just love that we now make movies that are totally beholden to this kind of lore. Like,
the problem with Five Nights at Freddy's is that the entire story happens outside of the game.
yeah.
But you have to make a movie that has the gameplay in it. But you
Right.
also, the only story is all this lore that got built up over like 10 years of gameplay. So you have this movie that feels more like an episode of Channel Zero, where it's like a guy having like hallucinations and nightmares, but then also like there's like Jim Henson monsters walking around.
Comparing it to Channel Zero did just make me want to watch it, though.
Oh, it feels exactly like the first season of Channel Zero. It feels like the first season of Channel Zero. It feels like that. Like it has that kind of like weird hallucinatory like nightmare imagery, but then also Five Nights at Freddy's characters are there.
I love.
But then all of a sudden like Hutch is like having like weird flashbacks to like children in the woods and like symbolic stuff is happening, and then there's like Five Nights at Freddy's characters. Hutch goes all out in that movie. He's like sobbing and like angry, and like I was like, you're putting that acting degree to use. Good for you. Good for you.
We love him.
We love him. We love him. He is our mascot.
So this pretty good movie is end of the day. This is a pretty good movie, and I will say, like, I think this is a triumphant return for us.
For us, what's next on our plate?
That's such a good question. Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Why would you pose the question that way?
Ladies and gentlemen, listen. Christy and I haven't done an episode in months, and you would think that in that time we'd be like, okay, but Christy and I are both the kind of people who, out of sight, out of mind. Like, we just, she's got her social life. She is at concerts and parties nonstop. Me, I got to take the kid to Ariel. I've got 2 other podcasts. It's a hard life.
I ran a 5K. Did you know that?
You ran a 5K. That's a
I was
lot
supposed
out
to
of
run
your day.
another one on Saturday, but it got canceled.
Why?
They couldn't coordinate the ferry trips well. I thought you
were gonna say they couldn't coordinate the runners. They didn't know how to send them.
It was on Governor's Island, and I think too many people signed up, and they're like, "Oh, we won't actually be able to get everyone there." But
oh no, too
No,
successful,
these are the
undone,
breaks.
hoist by their own petard.
I know. Oh, I could go for a run after this.
Oh, I
pretend
can't.
I was in the Hunger
I would
Games.
hurt my back. I did join a gym again, though. I do belong to a
That's
gym
great.
because my cholesterol is so high. The doctor was like, "We're not going to put you on medicine yet." And I was like, "Yet?
They're always
I gotta,
threatening you with that.
I got to start running. Or not running. I can't run. I got to start weightlifting."
Oh, lifting's
So
good.
next time you see me, I'm going to be jacked. I'm going to be jacked like Coriolanus Snow in the third act of Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
What are we saying? Are we saying goodbye to something?
Oh my gosh. I'm also looking around, like trying to see if I can just grab something off our bookshelf for us to discuss next time. But I don't know if you've noticed, all my horror novels are behind me.
Yeah, I did
now,
notice
so.
that.
So it's all
I
horror.
mean, I've been listening to a podcast about Stephen King. So before we were talking, I was listening to an episode about the book Thinner. So that's what I've been up to.
I'm actually in the middle, almost done with reading Salem's Lot for the first time in decades.
I would
so
love to do a non-canonical episode about Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot's great. And are they ever going to get that movie made?
Probably
We
not.
don't know. They keep canceling it. We
It's
have the
it's
Rob
my
Lowe
favorite
one.
King.
We don't.
Yeah,
Is it your favorite King?
it's my favorite King.
Wow. Maybe we should discuss Salem's Lot. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments if we should discuss Salem's Lot. I guess there's a preteen in it. I guess it qualifies.
Let's pivot. Let's pivot so hard that everyone stops listening.
Let's pivot so hard that we're just pretty much like every other podcast. There's like 17 Stephen King podcasts out there.
So many. Okay, let's say goodbye. I don't want to say goodbye to Sejanus because that's definitely what we did last time we did this episode.
We already said goodbye to that boy.
Hmm.
Let's say goodbye to what should we say goodbye to?
Peter Dinklage.
Let's say goodbye
He
to
dies in
Peter
this movie.
Dinklage. Yes, he takes poison and dies. Not on purpose. He thinks he's taking whatever that
He
drug.
just thinks it's a garden variety morphling, and look
He
what it
thinks
does
he's
to him.
taking morphling. Oh my goodness. Did you like when they're like, I like this plant, I call it Katniss. And
Yeah,
they
I
kind of
did
like look
like
at the
that.
screen like, One day
I think I
he's
laughed
gonna
out
hate
loud.
someone named Katniss.
I didn't. I was gonna say. I did not laugh out loud. I literally did finger guns at the screen. I was alone. I was
Were you?
not with anyone else. Yeah.
I
And
did finger guns at the screen during one of the trailers, and I can't remember what it was for.
It's probably
I was
Wonka.
like, yeah. I think it was for Madam Web.
That trailer. I don't know who any of those people are.
What's her face?
Oh, it's Dakota
Dakota
Johnson.
Johnson.
I know it's her. I don't know who any.
I'm
of those
like, come
characters
on. Oh, we're all supposed to get excited about the Marvels, but we can't get excited about the same movie, Madam Web. It's a bunch of ladies dressed up like Spider-Mans. What else do you want? It's Spider-Man ladies. There's been like 7 cartoons about that already. Let's go see a movie about it.
are. We need to end this.
Until next, let's say goodbye to our Madam Webs.
Yes. Goodbye, Madam Webs.
Goodbye, Madam Webs.
I won't just
Are we
leave. I thought about just leaving.
Oh, but you blocked off.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that either. I just have to.